Hey everyone, welcome to the Smiling Homeschooler Podcast. We're glad you can join us this week. Before we begin, we want to say thank you to Teaching Textbooks for making the Smiling Homeschooler possible. They're an amazing partner and an amazing math curriculum. If you haven't checked them out, you can check out a free trial over at teachingtextbooks.com. We really think your family will enjoy it, and that is why we have them as a sponsor. But we also want to say thank you to Samaritan Ministries and Redeem Health Share, where members are committed to honoring Christ and serving one another through healthcare needs. As my dad Todd likes to say, we use, love, and recommend Samaritan Ministries, and you can learn more at samaritanministries.org/familyman. But all right, Dad, if you're ready, go ahead and get started. Let's go.
Okay, well, hey, everybody. I hope you had a great celebration as you celebrated America's 250th anniversary and that everybody was safe. Kat had just sent me a notice that one of our fellow homeschoolers from the Indiana Homeschool Association, Mike Sager, whose wife, they're both on the board, but she's in publications. In fact, I just emailed her a couple weeks ago that her husband, Mike, was seriously injured in a fireworks accident as he was kind of helping his community. He was airlifted. So, I mean, it was that bad. His face, his shoulders, right? His chest. Correct. That's correct. So be praying for Mike Sager. In fact, they sent a link that if you, maybe Ben can include it, it's at supportnow.org, Mike/and/Amy/Sager, Sager. He could probably find that. If you'd like to encourage them with some support, you can do that as well. But be praying for them.
Yeah.
Which is a reminder again. My kids always laugh at me because I always have a horror story, well suited for every fun thing a kid could possibly do. So they're like, "Hey, Dad, I think I'm gonna ride my bike." Well, let me tell you about my friend who rode his bike into a tree of thorn bushes at and I've got one for everything. But you need to be careful out there.
It's legit. I mean, so 4th of July, it was really fun. We were super busy, late nights and everything. But on the actual 4th, we were going to go to this lake nearby that is one of the largest lakes, natural lakes in Indiana. And they were going to have this massive fireworks show. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars. They had hired a guy who had written a Disney fireworks song, or helped with it at least, and a bunch of stuff to make an original, soundtrack for it, all this. So we went out there at 10 or 9:30 because we thought it started at 10, but it started at 10:30. We see this huge house fire across the lake. You could just see the flames up above the trees and stuff. It was massive. So that was one thing going on, but it gets to 10:37. All of our kids are melting down and stuff. So we ended up, we're just going to go. We can't wait any longer. Ike and Carolyn waited until past midnight, and the fireworks didn't even go till past 1 a.m. because of whatever technical issues they were having. But I can't believe they were out there with their baby, or not baby, I guess 3-year-old, until midnight trying to get to watch these amazing fireworks. But so it was a fun weekend, but didn't really actually get to see any major fireworks. So.
Nope, we didn't.
You guys were out on the boat. That's not
what it's all about, Charlie Brown.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I think it's actually kind of a good transition because this was a topic we talked about, internally a couple weeks ago. But I think it's something that every, parent thinks about to some extent, and that's building a strong family culture. And I think things like the fireworks or 4th of July and things like that can definitely play a role in that. But that's our topic this week is just the idea of culture, a family culture.
Well, Ben, let me just ask you right off the bat, and Catherine can answer as well, because I really hate little titles for things that we have in our families. Not because I hate that, but because I know sometimes when I hear someone say, "Oh, you got to have a family vision, you got to do this," it feels like a lot of work. So maybe we should just say, what do you mean by family culture? And maybe define that so we can ease the anxiety that people might be feeling even as we speak, and think, it's just like I was upstairs and I heard your mom saying, "Well, my influencer said," and I'm like, "Oh, if I could just not hear that word ever again, I would be a happy husband." So what do you mean? What do you mean by family culture? And then Catherine, maybe in response, what does it mean to you?
Well, one thing we need to get away, I want to make sure is not getting away from you answering questions, because you are the one who actually has built a family for decades versus us, only doing it for, well, I guess me for almost 10 years. But also, I don't think it's even the hard work. I think it's the
okay, we haven't defined
feeling like failure. That's the thing that I think is tough, is because other people, you think you got to look a certain way. But to me, family culture is the feelings that our family or our kids will associate with our family is kind of what I would say the family culture is. So when they think of our family unit, what are the things that someday they'll look back on and be like, these are the things that my parents valued about, instilling in our family. So that's kind of what I would say it is.
How about you, Catherine? Do you want to correct that?
No, I think of a family culture as like everyone has one. And I think your culture can tend to be maybe more positive things or negative, but you're going to have a culture regardless, just because, you're a group of people. And I think it kind of sums up a lot of things. I think it sums up your priorities, your traditions, just like even just geographically, like where is your family? How many people are in your family? Are you a close-knit family? Is everyone kind of doing their own thing? Like, I think it kind of just sums up the whole family experience. And I'm going to quote someone else, actually, because Corey Robertson from the Duck Dynasty, she talks about kin keeping.
She's like an influencer.
She's kind of OG influencer, probably. But they have a pretty awesome family. They've got extended family. They're involved with grandparents and grandbabies and
cool beards.
Cool beards. But she called it kin keeping. And this is just like a little definition she has on her page that I thought was good. She says, it's a form of invisible labor dedicated to family bonding and magic making, an act of maintaining and strengthening family ties. A kinkeeper is someone who cultivates a sense of family solidarity and connectedness through the carrying on of family traditions, one who promotes and protects family relationships through communication, holidays, and performing all sorts of emotional caregiving. And I just like that title because I think it's a part of family culture, is just kind of like preserving the relationships over the years and working towards like that family closeness. And I think that's a good family culture. But regardless, you're going to have a culture, whether it's, positive or negative.
And I think that's what we're going to I would think tonight as we talk, let's just kind of focus on the positive side. Because because everybody does have some positive side. Because to me, and honestly, it would not be a phrase that I would use, family culture, because it sounds influency. But to me, it's kind of the glue that glues us together. It's a thing that we think about our family, and not everybody's culture is going to look the same, right? We've already kind of said that. Like, how would you identify, without naming names, what are the different kind of cultures that you see families or the glue that's sticking them together? Because that's really what we want. I mean, we don't want it's not just like traditions for tradition's sake. It's not just fun for fun's sake. It's not just, mission for mission's sake. It really, as I think you said about Sadie Robinson, that it somehow strengthens the relationship. It's what keeps our families together, that they call it home, So what are maybe the different kinds that you've seen, both of you?
Well, I think the word together, that's how maybe I would describe our family, like just togetherness, just all through growing up. The RV was a lot of together, and it wasn't always pretty together, but we were still together. Homeschooling kind of cultivates that togetherness. And I think really that's not very common, especially in families that don't homeschool. You're kind of just pushed apart, through everyone's activities and, different paths. And so I just think our family, as in the big Wilson family, I think of togetherness when I think of like our family culture, that we just did things together.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. How about you, Ben?
And
it doesn't just have to be our family.
No, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really. I wasn't thinking really in that direction, honestly. So I'm going to go a little bit different. I think again, it comes down to the values that you care about. So I really do think what you value is what you put your effort into generally. So something that I really value and I want my kids to remember is I want it to feel that I prioritize them over a lot of the normal things. So I want them to look back and be like, Dad really, spent a lot of time with us, whether it's, jumping on the trampoline or swimming or whatever it is, those kind of things. But I think sometimes if you aren't a little bit intentional about that, I think it's really easy to let the things of life kind of overtake, and then that becomes the priority, so and especially as we've talked about in the past even within the last few weeks, especially with like social media and stuff like that, I think our phones can become a culture, and that's something that's like on the negative side. I don't want that to become the thing where it's just everyone's distracted or everyone's doing their own thing. Some of the cultures that
or just busyness,
or just busyness,
I think that can be its own culture.
But some of the cultures that I do really like, I respect a lot when I see them, is like a family that's just like really generous together. Like I always think that's a really cool thing when I see someone where I can see they like really prioritize like maybe it's more of a time thing, like serving someone or being really good about like helping out with something or something like that. I think that's a really cool culture when I see that. But that's not always easy.
Would you say that Sam's wife, McKenna, the Phillips, that would be their kind of family?
Yeah,
I mean, they're
exactly.
always helping other families.
Totally. Yep, totally.
Yeah. I think even in that, I think it's not an individual thing. Like it's their whole family is a part of it. Right. Cohen is helping McKenna, wrap the gift or whatever, and he's 4. I think that's what makes it so beautiful. Not that the dad is generous or the mom is generous, but
that's
that
where
as
it
a
comes
family
from,
they're doing
generally.
it together. Sure.
No, I agree, but I think Catherine's right that it's what your family is, because I was thinking of there are family culture where it might be sports, and our family's not that way. But
now.
Yeah, that's right. It's more so that way. But I admire, and it looks fun to me for the family who, they all wear, Cubs jerseys and they all get excited about the ball game or the family that does music, they all play instrument or they do ministry or they do work. And I would say, again, those things, because I was thinking about our family, and I know, your mom would probably like die if I said this on the air, but Disney is our thing. It's part of our family culture. Not because it's not, and people will like, I can't believe you. That's a worldly, godless.
All right, we'll go with something less. Whatever. We'll say McDonald's is our family culture.
Okay,
that's a whole lot better.
Which is just about the same.
I know, that's why I said it.
The idea is not. It's not about playing baseball or even working together. It's that thing that rallies you together, and really we can do Disney and love God at the same time. We can go to McDonald's and love God at the same time. We can do those other things and love God at the same time. So, it's that thing that makes your family your family. And Abraham Lincoln, and they say it's not totally his quote, but he said, whatever you are, be a good one. And I think that's the thing. I think that's what frustrates families, is that you think we've got to be like that family. I know people will try to be like our family, which I don't know why you would want to do that. Or I can remember, and I've told the story so many times, I can remember when we were early in homeschooling, we were just hitting the road and we were traveling around, and I can remember being in, I think, the Pennsylvania Homeschool Convention. What's it called? CHAP? And we were in this big farm building, and there was this music playing, and you could tell it was live, and I'm kind of going through the crowds, and I finally see this band made up of one family. They all had little hee-haw outfits on, with overalls, and they were all playing their instruments, and there was like some kid like Anders' age on a mandolin just going, as fast as the wind. And I can remember, vividly, I can remember standing in the back because, there were no seats, and just standing there. And I sent up a spontaneous prayer to God, and it just struck me as funny. And it was this: Dear God, please don't let my wife see this. Because I thought she's going to want us to be like them. She's going to want our family, to be the instrument playing family, thinking that would bind us together. And she was kind of on the right track. There are those things that do that family culture, that is the glue that ties everything else together. But that wasn't our thing. Right. And it just can't be.
Well, and what do you think, like, obviously the big piece of family culture is family, but with all of those things, I think they all have the potential to become the biggest priority, whether maybe you're a accomplishments family, or like a scholastic kind of family, or a sports family. But how do you keep those things from becoming more important than the family piece of the culture?
That's a great question. And how about before we answer that, let's take a commercial break. Ben, you want to take it from there?
Yeah. Well, as always, we want to say thank you to Teaching Textbooks. They are an amazing math curriculum. My daughter used them this past year for the first time and loved it. We'll be using them again for this coming school year. It's super interactive. They have, you can do it from basically any device that has an internet browser, so it's super easy to access. It's very independent, so your child can do it even without you if you want them to, and if you want to do it along with them, that's great too. So go check them out. They have, you can try it out over at teachingtextbooks.com. We really appreciate their support.
And like family culture, everyone knows that sharing works. Whether it's helping a neighbor move, cleaning up after a storm, shoveling the sidewalk after a big snow, or sharing healthcare burdens. For over 30 years, Samaritan Ministries has been a ministry of Christians helping Christians with healthcare needs. So whether you need a hand or can lend a hand, being members of Samaritan or the recently launched Redeem Health Share Ministry makes healthcare sharing possible. Take it from me, it works for my family. Learn more at SamaritanMinistries.org/familyman. So let's go back to that question. You want to answer that again? Ask that again, Catherine?
Well, I was basically just saying, like, how do you keep the family part of the culture more of a priority than whatever else is involved, be it sports or school or work ethic or ministry or whatever that might be?
That's a great question. And I will say right now, for me, and maybe it's age, maybe you don't see it at the beginning. I don't know. But I know, so we go to Disney every year, Walt Disney World. We stay at the Fort Wilderness Campground. It's a crummy place. You don't want to go there. Don't go.
Especially not in October.
Don't say that. Beep. Take that out right now. Did not hear that on this show. But I know that we don't always go to the park. Sometimes we just hang around the campground. And I know Ben is always in consternation when I say, "Oh, I don't have to go to the parks." He's like, "Dad, what is wrong with you?" And he questions my salvation even. And and I don't know if I say it this way, but I think I have said that's not what makes it fun for me. It's not the place. It is not the old Disney movies like Blackbeard's Ghost and, The World's Greatest Athlete or any of the other movies. It is not a McDonald's meal that brings me joy. I did not say.
That's not true.
I did not say.
Everything he's saying right now is complete baloney. So we'll move on from this because I'm just kidding.
But what brings me joy is being there with my family. I just love it. I love our Saturday McDonald's because we're there all together. And that's the most important part to me, and sometimes your mom will say, why does it matter if we miss McDonald's? It's just a McDonald's. And I'm like, no, man, it's bigger than that. And I feel the same way about Disney. And I think And maybe that's a good sign, because sometimes those things that we call maybe our family culture really are not our family culture. Maybe they're distractors from our
Mm-hmm.
family, from what's most important. How do you make that work? I don't know, but I'll tell you, if you think that's your family culture and your kids are crying or they say they hate you when you're doing that, then it is a negative family culture,
Right.
because
Mm-hmm.
you want it to be something, you know, really. And that's, you want your I know everybody listening wants their kids to love God, and I think by doing those, by going to McDonald's and having fun, and loving your kids at the same time you love God, your kids will love God. I mean, I just think it's that simple. I don't think they can even walk away from that. Why would they want to? And I
Mm-hmm.
think, if you're a Chicago Cubs fan and you take your kids there at whatever ages, all ages, and you're loving them as you're having fun, they will love you and they will love God if you love God at the same time. But if you're like, and Ben, I know I've ruined it plenty of times where I get so anxious about the thing that we're doing, that, I mean, we go every year. We have a lot of traditions, and I think traditions are part of family culture. I know my daughter-in-law McKenna thinks, could you have any less family traditions, please? Does everything have to be a family tradition? And the answer is yes, it does. But sometimes I get bent out of shape because my tradition goes awry, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's when I've stepped over the line, that it is no longer about our family culture or family. It's
Mm-hmm.
about
Yeah.
it's about
Yeah.
me, and my activity.
But I do
Yeah.
think, and regardless of you wanting it to be true or not, like you were pretty intentional over the course of the years towards certain things that you did have as high value, that, we are going to say no to
Mm-hmm.
things that go against that, so whether that be for you, it was, we want our kids to be okay with being with their siblings and not just being always with friends, not saying friends are bad, not spending, not, we definitely had friends, and you can not be that way. You don't have to do that at all. It's up to you. But
Mm-hmm.
then you did make decisions based on that, so there were quite a few things that you were pretty strong about, especially maybe more
That's a good point.
obviously early on. So I do think, to have that strong family culture, if you're saying
Mm.
we want to be together more as a family, then you're going to have to say, like, you both have that same priority, and then say we're going to have to say no or make choices that align with that big value. And I don't mean you need like 100 things, and that's something that, like, we've talked about this before probably, but with habits, you can't take on like 12 new habits in one day. Like, that just doesn't work that way, so you don't have to have 100 things. It can literally just be like, and again, this is something we do, or try to are always thinking about too, but is, okay, we want to spend more time as a family, less time with other people, let's say, if that's something. Or maybe it's, we
Mm-hmm.
want to be a family that's really involved at church or something like that, and you're like, okay, we're gonna make sure as a family we do a few things at church each week or whatever. And so you can come up with your couple things, and then you just, I'm not saying this is just easy, but I'm just saying it helps you clarify what are the decisions we're making, versus if it's just constantly everything, or you have 100 different things you're trying to focus on. It just gets, I think, overwhelming and impossible. And I also do think just little things can make a humongous impact on just the family culture that you do end up
I think that's
developing.
a great point, Ben. I mean, I really do think. I think sometimes some families are in danger of just making a community culture or a friend culture, because they take their vacations with friends and other people, which are all okay. I mean,
All
that's
right, you
fine.
can do that. That's We're not saying you're bad for it.
But if you want family culture, I think you have to say sometimes it's just us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, growing up, my family went on vacation. We had some aunts and uncles who showed up every once in a while, but it was just my family. When we go somewhere, it's just our family. And even, I don't know if Ben knows this, but he lives right next door to me, and they have a swimming pool right there. And there are times where I see him having fun with his kids that I make myself not go over there. Not because I don't want to be a part of that, but because I want his family culture to be his family. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want all their memories to be, and here comes Pops, which is fine, but I want it to be his family. I want it to be Catherine's family. And I just think that's so important. And for some families, I think maybe your kids would fight you and say, "Oh, can we take a friend, please?" I would say, "No, you can't take a friend. Not this time." Because it's just us. And if you've ever seen the movie RV, and I would say if you have young kids, make sure you watch it first or look at Plugged In online and get a review, because there are some rough parts. But there's this family that is son and daughter who are dreading going on this family vacation with their dad, and by the end they want to do it again, because it was something special. That is family culture.
Yeah. And I think too, like, family culture is for the now, maybe when your kids are fighting you or you have to put those kind of parameters in place, but it's also looking to the future.
That's
like
what I would say.
Our family, we all live within about 10 minutes of each other, and that's pretty special, and that's not super common. But I think one of the reasons that we want to do that, and not to say, that won't ever change.
It's for the free babysitting.
Free babysitting is a big perk. But the fact that there is such a strong family culture, the fact that we want to go get the Christmas tree together, even though Ben doesn't even get a Christmas tree, or, all those little traditions and those moments and those memories that we did growing up that we want to still be a part of as adults with our families, and for them to get to experience that. And so I think it is for today, and it is for the now, but it is for the future and for their families that are going to be part of that, that bigger family.
I mean, that's pretty much almost always what I'm thinking of. It's not even just so much the now. It is like, what are my kids going to remember as our family, because I mean, once they are past the age of, I don't know, late teens, whatever, early 20s, most of the time they won't be at home anymore at that point. And so then it is just relying on the memories of what our family is. And obviously, even now we still interact as a big family. So, that's not always true, but for a lot of people it is true. You're not going to be around your kids a ton afterwards, so the culture that I want to remember is, our culture was, we really loved spending time together. We loved playing games together, or we loved camping together, or we loved or we were really thankful family. Like all my parents, siblings were really, whatever it is, there could be a million different things you can fill in. And I do think that's where, like, long term, that makes a massive impact on their lives. And this is obviously, most of the people we are listening do have kids and young kids and stuff like that. But if you are starting to have older kids, I do think, giving your married children the ability to say they're going to need, like, as Dad said, it's okay that they may not be able to come to every holiday, or they may not be able to do every, family thing that you used to, just because they do need to start building that culture. And I think it can be hard to not put that pressure on, because everyone obviously wants to be there. So I think you can really be a big supporter in that way.
I think it's both, though. I think it's giving your kids the space to create their own family culture, but also having a family culture where your grown kids still feel like they can be a part of it, that they want to be a part of it. Because I think for some, maybe they view that family culture as kind of having an expiration date, when they turn 18, when they get married. And I don't know, I think that's something really unique about our family, is the expectation wasn't that it's going to be over. The expectation was like, let's see what this looks like, throughout the rest of everybody's lives. And
well, I think,
and that's something.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's something really, really cool and really beautiful.
Well, I'll kind of close it out here, but and this is Ben, and I think you both said it. It is about looking forward, and even I'm holding up a picture. You guys you were part of it, because this was a picture. If you're watching this on Facebook, you can see a blurry picture of I'm holding on my phone, of our family on 4th of July. Not just 4th of July, but the semi-quincentennial celebration, 250 years. And I was thinking, where will everybody be in another 50 years at the tricentennial? And so I'm going to take this picture and I'm going to send it probably tomorrow to Walmart. I'm going to get an 8x10. I'm going to put it in a frame. And I'm going to let you two know right now, there will be a note behind it that my kids will read in 50 years when Ben is 80 It's almost
Oh, gosh.
83.
We
And
won't be able to
Catherine-
remember it by then. You might want to
Catherine
put a
will
note
just be
somewhere
turning
else.
79, and I'll be long gone, and I will be waiting for them, and I just want them to know then, as I am now, how glad I am to be their dad. So that's a good place to stop. Ben, why don't you take us out of here?
All right. Well, thanks everyone for being part of this each and every week. If you need more weekly encouragement, Dad sends out a short weekly email that you can subscribe to over at thesmilinghomeschooler.com. It's encouraging. Again, it's not long, so it's not a big commitment, and it's just a good reminder. And it usually comes in on Thursdays, I believe it is. But go do that. Also, again, thank you to
Thursday-ish.
Thursday-ish is. And thank you again to Teaching Textbooks. We really couldn't do this without them. If you do already use Teaching Textbooks and you ever interact with them, just tell them that you appreciate their support of the Smiling Homeschooler and just as being part of the community. They really are integral to all of it. So go check them out at teachingtextbooks.com. Also, thank you to Samaritan Ministries and Redeem Health Share, where members are committed to honoring Christ and serving one another through healthcare needs. As Dad likes to say, we use, love, and recommend Samaritan Ministries, and you can learn more at samaritanministries.org/familyman. And we really appreciate their support, and go check them out as well. They really are an amazing company. But all right, everyone, have a great week. Don't forget to smile, and we'll see you next week.